the metal edge of my grandfather's compass pressed into my palm, while my mother stood beneath the hospital ballroom lights and told 200 donors that I repaired printers for the Air Force. She has always preferred little technical jobs, Vivian Ward said, smiling toward the trustees. Nothing with real responsibility. Her brother Nathan was the ambitious one. A few people lowered their wine glasses. Nathan kept smiling beside the Innovation Award he was about to receive. I remained seated with a locked black federal case resting against my ankle, watching the chairman at the head table study my face as if he had just recognized a name from a report he was never supposed to forget. My mother thought the case contained office equipment. She had no idea it carried the record that could erase every word she had just said. The chairman rose before the applause finished. "Mrs. Ward," retired Lieutenant General Malcolm Reed said, "did you just call the architect of North Star a printer technician?" The room did not become silent all at once. It happened in pieces. A spoon stopped against porcelain. A photographer lowered his camera. Nathan's smile remained on his face 1 second too long. My mother looked at me. For the first time in 36 years, she looked uncertain. That uncertainty had taken a long time to earn. The first time I understood my place in the family, I was 8 years old, sitting under our dining table with a screwdriver and a broken radio. The carpet scratched my knees. My grandfather Henry sat on the floor beside me, even though arthritis made getting up difficult. Nathan had a piano recital that evening. My mother moved through the house in a cloud of hairspray, reminding everyone that her son had real talent. When I repaired the radio and music crackled through its speaker, she leaned into the room only long enough to say, "Clean up that mess before the guests arrive." Grandpa Henry waited until she left. He turned the tuning dial, listened to the weak signal settle, and placed his old brass compass in my hand. "Noise gets attention," he said. "Signals get people home." I did not understand the sentence then. I understood the way he said it. I kept the compass. The second memory came when I was 14. Nathan had copied half of a science project from a magazine, but my mother spent 3 nights helping him build the display. I had designed a simple alarm that detected smoke before flames reached a hallway. I tested it over the kitchen toaster until the sensor screamed. My mother rushed in, pulled the battery, and told me I had frightened everyone. Nathan's project won second place at the county fair. Mine never left the kitchen. Grandpa found it in the trash the next morning. He cleaned coffee grounds from the wires and set it on his workbench. "People throw away what makes them uncomfortable," he said. "That doesn't mean it has no value." I rebuilt it stronger. The third memory came at 22. When I received an offer to join a civilian cyber defense program supporting military medical systems. The letter explained almost nothing because the work required clearance. It named a federal laboratory in Maryland, a starting salary lower than Nathan's first corporate job, and a reporting date 3 weeks away. My mother read the first page and frowned. "So you'll be answering computer calls for soldiers?" "I'll be protecting hospital networks." That is what I said. Nathan laughed from the refrigerator. My stepfather, Paul, stared at the floor, the way he always did when choosing peace meant choosing her. Grandpa had died 6 months earlier. The compass sat in my coat pocket while I packed one suitcase in the bedroom that had never quite felt like mine. Before leaving, I found an envelope he had hidden inside the compass box. It contained $400 and one line in his narrow handwriting. "Follow the signal, Ellie, not the noise." At 4:40 the next morning, I drove east. The work was not glamorous. Most days began under fluorescent lights with coffee that tasted burned before sunrise. I learned how military hospitals breathe through networks most people never see. Pharmacy systems, blood inventories, ventilator controls, medevac scheduling, patient identities. One damaged line of code could delay medicine in Germany, reroute an aircraft in Alaska, or expose the family of a wounded service member. For the first 2 years, I told my family almost nothing. They filled the silence themselves. At Christmas, my mother introduced me as our government computer girl. Nathan asked whether I could remove a virus from his laptop. Paul told me it was good I had found something stable, even if it was not a career with much upward movement. I removed the virus. I did not correct any of them. The military taught me something my family never had. Responsibility does not become smaller because nobody applauds it. The cost arrived during my 7th year. Grandpa's younger sister, Aunt June, was the last person in the family who called simply to hear my voice. She lived alone in Ohio and mailed me molasses cookies every winter. When she entered hospice, I promised I would come. The night before my flight, a foreign intrusion entered a medical logistics network through a contractor update. At first, it looked ordinary. A delayed authentication, a failed pharmacy request, a minor problem at 3 hospitals. By midnight, I knew it was reconnaissance. By 2, we found dormant code in 11 locations. I called Aunt June from a secure hallway and told her I might miss the morning flight. "You are where you are needed," she said. Her breathing was thin. "Just don't confuse being needed with being loved." She died while I was still in the operations center. I sat in my car afterward with the engine off, the compass resting in the cup holder. I did not cry until snow began covering the windshield, and I realized no one was waiting for me to drive home. 3 years later, the attack we had feared finally came. It began at 1:17 a.m. during a winter storm. Military hospitals across the eastern corridor started losing access to medication records. Ambulance routes disappeared from dispatch screens. At one trauma center, blood units were being mislabeled by corrupted software. The official response plan called for shutting down the entire network. I saw the trap. The attackers wanted us dark. If we disconnected everything, they could activate a second intrusion inside the backup system without being watched. I ordered the hospitals onto isolated local protocols, moved blood matching to manual verification, and kept one narrow section of the compromised network alive as bait. For 11 hours, my team watched the attackers expose every hidden path they had built. At 12:06 that afternoon, we closed them all at once. No patient died. No blood unit was lost. 37 hospitals continued operating. The recovery architecture became known inside classified channels as North Star, because it kept medical systems moving when every ordinary route failed. General Reed arrived 2 days later. At the time, he oversaw military medical readiness. He walked into the operations room while my staff slept in chairs and empty coffee cups covered the floor. He did not ask who held the highest title. He looked at the incident map, then at me. "You left them one road because you knew they would mistake access for control," he said. "Yes, sir." He nodded once. "That is the difference between someone who understands computers and someone who understands an enemy." North Star remained classified. My name did too. 18 months later, Nathan launched a healthcare technology company called Ward Meridian. My mother treated it like the founding of a dynasty. She mailed articles about him to relatives, framed his magazine cover, and referred to his software as the future of emergency medicine. What she never mentioned was that his first investor had withdrawn. Nathan called me late one night. "I need a bridge loan," he said, "just until the hospital contracts close." "How much?" $200,000. I did not have that kind of money sitting in a checking account. I did have a small house Grandpa had left jointly to Nathan and me. Nathan wanted to sell. I wanted to preserve it. I bought his half for far more than it was worth. He used the money to keep his company alive. My mother told everyone she had helped him. I let her. That choice returned to me 3 years later in the ballroom. Ward Meridian had been selected for the Hospital Foundation's Innovation in Preparedness Award. Nathan's company claimed its software could keep civilian hospitals functioning during cyber emergencies. The award would place him in front of federal partners and open contracts worth millions. My mother called 2 weeks before the ceremony. "You are expected to attend," she said. "But please do not discuss your work. Nathan's guests are serious people, and we cannot have you confusing them with classified nonsense." "I don't discuss my work." "I know. That mysterious act has become exhausting." She paused. "Wear something appropriate. This night is important to the family." I looked at the black case beside my desk. A federal review board had asked me to attend because Ward Meridian's award submission contained diagrams that resembled protected North Star architecture. "Understood," I said. The private dismissal came the next evening when Nathan visited my house. He walked through Grandpa's old workshop as if assessing property he still believed should belong to him. The repaired radio sat on a shelf beside the compass box. "You could make this easier," he said. "Tell the review board you helped me informally. Family collaboration. Nothing complicated. You submitted protected diagrams. They are concepts, Elena. You did not invent redundancy." I watched him touch Grandpa's workbench. "Where did you get them?" His hand stopped. He smiled. "That is an interesting accusation from someone whose career cannot be verified." I opened the front door. He stared at me for a moment, almost wounded. For 3 seconds, he looked like the boy who used to knock on my bedroom wall during thunderstorms. "I thought you would be proud of me," he said quietly. "I wanted to be." His face closed again. "You always resented that Mom believed in me." I did not answer. He left. The semi-public attack happened at a family brunch. My mother invited 2 hospital trustees and made a point of asking me about work while everyone listened. "Still handling passwords at the base?" she said. Something like that. Paul gave me an apologetic glance and changed the subject. He had spent 20 years changing subjects, while my mother changed reality. Nathan described his software. I recognized entire phrases from an internal North Star briefing. When I asked where his team developed the emergency isolation model, he laughed. "You would not understand the commercial side." My mother touched my wrist. "Let him have his moment." I removed her hand. He took more than a moment. The full public attack came at the ceremony. My mother had arranged the program herself. Nathan's company logo covered the screens. A glass award stood beneath a spotlight, shaped like a silver flame. Before presenting it, Vivian told the audience the story she preferred. Nathan had always been gifted. Nathan had built himself from nothing. Nathan had carried the family name into rooms that mattered. Someone at her table asked whether she had 2 children. That was when she pointed toward me. "Elena works near an Air Force facility," she said. "She repairs printers and helps people unlock their accounts. We love her, of course, but not every child is meant for leadership. If you have ever watched someone reduce your entire life because the truth would disturb the role they assigned you, write the word signal in the comments. Being unseen can hurt. Staying small for their comfort hurts longer." My mother raised the award. I placed one hand on the black case. General Reed stood. "Did you just call the architect of North Star a printer technician?" My mother's arm lowered by inches. Nathan stopped breathing. Reed stepped away from the head table. He was older than when I had last seen him, but the room still responded to him before anyone understood why. Vivian tried to smile. "I am sure there is some confusion. Elena has always exaggerated the importance of her government work." Reed looked at her, and whatever he saw did not require anger. "I signed the casualty prevention report," he said. "Your daughter designed the system that kept 37 military hospitals operating during a coordinated attack." A glass touched a saucer near the back. No one looked toward the sound. My mother stared at me. Nathan's attorney, seated beside him, slowly closed the award folder. Reed continued with one sentence. "Thousands of service members received uninterrupted care because she recognized a battlefield inside a network before the rest of us did." I had spent half my life thinking I wanted my mother to hear words like those. When they came, I felt no triumph, only distance. The Federal Review Officer approached the stage and asked Nathan to remain seated. I unlocked the black case. Inside was a declassified summary of the North Star incident, the protected design registrations, and a forensic report tracing the diagrams in Ward Meridian's submission. They had come from an old laptop Nathan left at Grandpa's house years earlier. He had visited while I was overseas, copied folders from my encrypted backup drive, and kept what he could not open. Much later, a careless software update exposed cached images of the diagrams. Nathan stood. "This is insane. I did not steal from her. I found those files in a family house." The review officer's voice remained level. "The house belonged to Ms. Ward." My mother looked between us. "Elena, say something. Tell them your brother did not understand." I closed the case. He understood enough to remove my name. Nathan's award was suspended before it reached his hands. That should have been the end. It was not. The second discovery came from the Hospital Foundation's Financial Counsel. Ward Meridian had represented the emergency architecture as an original company asset to secure a $3 million investment. Nathan had also listed Grandpa's house as collateral, using an outdated ownership document from before I bought his share. By trying to prove he owned my work, he had submitted the document that proved he knew the house was mine. The room shifted away from him. Not dramatically. People simply stopped leaning closer. My mother's confidence collapsed in stages. First, she corrected details. Then she blamed Nathan's staff. Then she said families should resolve misunderstandings privately. Finally, she looked at me with something almost like fear. "Why did you let us believe you were ordinary?" I touched the compass through my coat pocket. "You needed me to be." Paul whispered my name. I turned toward him. "I was going to defend you," he said. "When?" He looked at the floor. There was no answer down there. Outside, freezing rain tapped against the museum steps. I walked to my car without looking back. I did not feel as though I had won. I felt the specific relief of no longer carrying a lie, simply because other people had built furniture around it. Ward Meridian survived, but Nathan lost control of it. The investors removed him as chief executive while the federal review continued. No one sent him to prison. No dramatic punishment arrived. He became smaller in the way status-conscious people fear most. Meetings continued without him. My mother resigned from the hospital foundation. Friends remained polite but stopped asking her to chair events. She had spent years using her children as evidence of her own worth. Once the evidence contradicted her, she did not know who to be. 3 months later, she came to Grandpa's house. I found her in the workshop holding the repaired radio. "I did not know how important your work was," she said. "You did not know what it was. That is what I mean. No, it isn't." Her fingers tightened around the radio. "I was proud of Nathan because he told me what he was doing. You were proud of him before he did anything." Her face changed. The truth reached somewhere accusation never had. "I do love you," she said. "I believe you." Hope moved across her features. "But love that requires me to be less visible is not access." She began to cry. I did not. I took the radio from her before she dropped it and opened the workshop door. She left quietly. Paul sent a letter later. Nathan sent an apology written by his attorney, followed months afterward by one written in his own uneven hand. I answered neither immediately. Forgiveness is not a fire alarm. It does not require you to run toward it the moment someone pulls the handle. I returned to work. North Star was adapted for civilian trauma networks under a protected public partnership. I insisted the first installation go to the county hospital where Aunt June had died. Her final warning stayed with me: do not confuse being needed with being loved. So I built a life containing both. A year after the ceremony, I stood in Grandpa's workshop with a 16-year-old student from a military family. Her father had been wounded overseas. She had designed a low-cost monitor that warned caregivers when a patient stopped breathing normally during sleep. Her teachers called it impractical. Her mother called it clutter. She set the device on Grandpa's bench and waited for me to reject it. I turned on the old radio. Static filled the room until I adjusted the dial and a clear voice emerged. I placed the brass compass beside her invention. "Noise gets attention," I told her. "Signals get people home." She looked at the compass, then at me. "Do you think this could work?" "It already does. Now we make it stronger." For years, I believed being misunderstood was the price of doing work no one could see. What my family never understood was that silence does not prove emptiness. Sometimes it means a person has stopped presenting evidence to people committed to the wrong verdict. You are not ordinary because someone failed to ask the right question. You are not unsuccessful because your sacrifices cannot be displayed at dinner. And you do not owe anyone a smaller life so they can remain comfortable inside their version of you. If you have ever been treated like the least important person in your own family, tell me where you are watching from, and leave one word for what kept you moving. Subscribe and stay with us. There are more quiet people carrying extraordinary truths, and their stories deserve to be told all the way to the end.